For over 3 decades, a brutal killer walked the streets of Paris committing unspeakable crimes. He was called Le Grêlé, the pockmarked man, his face remembered by those who survived his attacks. He raped, he murdered, and then he vanished. Who was he? A criminal mastermind, a shadow in the night. No one suspected that this man, hiding in plain sight, was a police officer, until one day, the dark truth was finally uncovered. This is the story of François Verove, a man whose shocking double life shook France to its core. A police officer by day, a vicious monster by night. How did he get away with it for so long? And what finally brought him down? The beginning of the mystery. It was May 5th, 1986, when the city of Paris was forever changed. 11-year-old Cécile Bloch left her apartment building for school and never came home. Her body was found hours later in the basement, brutally raped and strangled. The crime sent shockwaves through the city. Witnesses described seeing a man with a pockmarked face lurking in the building that morning. And so, the legend of Le Grêlé was born. Cécile's murder was just the beginning. Over the next several years, a string of vicious crimes plagued Paris. Rape, assault, and more murders. Each crime is tied together by a single strand of evidence, DNA. But surprisingly, no match was ever found. Le Grêlé seemed to vanish into thin air. Who was this man? The pockmarked face haunted investigators, but despite their efforts, Le Grêlé evaded capture. It seemed as though he knew exactly how to avoid detection. The elusive predator. For years, the crimes continued. Le Grêlé's victims ranged from children to adults. One of the most shocking cases was the murder of Gilles Politi and his wife. He broke into their home, tortured them, and left their bodies behind. The brutality was unimaginable. As the years passed, fear gripped the city. The people of Paris knew a dangerous predator was among them, but no one knew where he would strike next. Was he a ghost? Or was he living among them, blending in, hiding in plain sight? The police were running out of leads. Le Grêlé seemed untouchable. For more than 30 years, the case remained unsolved. Advances in forensic science, particularly DNA technology, breathed new life into the investigation. But no one expected the truth that would come to light in 2021. François Verove was a retired police officer, a man trusted by the very system designed to catch criminals. Married with children, he lived a seemingly normal life. But beneath this facade was a dark secret. As investigators closed in on a list of potential suspects, police officers from the 1980s and 90s, Verove knew his time was running out. The net was closing in. When asked to submit his DNA for testing, he disappeared. Days later, Verove's body was found in a rented home, a suicide. And beside him, a letter of confession. The confession. In his suicide note, François Verove confessed to being Le Grêlé, the pockmarked man who had terrorized Paris for decades. He admitted to the murders, the rapes, and the assaults. But in the same breath, he claimed that he had since changed. On the kitchen workshop, police officers found a letter to his family that read thus:
"My dear, I am going to explain to you why I had to leave this world. You met me in 1984 when I was a young policeman. At that time, you had already detected some difficulties that I was trying to hide. I was actually nourishing an uncontrollable rage which made me a criminal. Sometimes I couldn't take it anymore, and I had to destroy, tarnish, kill innocent people." According to him, his crimes were caused by growing impulses that he couldn't control until the birth of his children. He explains that these impulses completely vanished in 1997 when he went to therapy following a job burnout. "Therapy erased my death instinct. When I was killing innocent people, I was actually seeking to destroy my childhood wounds. This recovery was a real relief, a true rebirth, but I could not erase the past. More than 30 years after my first crimes, the justice system has caught up with me. In order to avoid a trial that will have consequences for you, I have made the decision to commit suicide. Indeed, the French justice system stops prosecution at the death of the criminal." He concluded the farewell letter by writing a message to all his victims. "I will never be able to undo the harm I have caused to my family and to the families of the victims. I am not asking for forgiveness because my deeds are unforgivable. I love you more than anything else in this world, and I hate this criminal that I used to be." For his family, friends, and colleagues, the revelation was devastating. They had known him as a father, a husband, and a police officer, but none of them knew about the monster hiding beneath the surface. He was a man who lived a double life. He used his position in law enforcement to evade capture. He knew exactly how the system worked, and he exploited it. But what we don't know is why. The revelation of François Vérov's identity brought some closure, but for the families of his victims it was bittersweet. There would be no trial and no justice in the courts. His death meant that many questions would remain unanswered. Still, for those who lived in fear of Le Grêlé for so long, the nightmare was finally over. The mystery was solved, and the city of Paris could begin to heal. François Vérov's story is a chilling reminder that evil can hide in the most unlikely of places. For years he wore the mask of a protector, all while living a secret life of horror. Even those closest to him had no idea. But in the end, no secret can stay buried forever. The truth will always come to light. And when it does, the world will never be the same.